This is a demo of Lab 1. Now you'll notice here that you'll be using data from your textbook. You'll be using data from problem 3.1, number 28. I'm going to use data from number 27 in the same section to do the demonstration. We'll be binning the data to create frequency and relative frequency distributions. We'll be creating histograms, both frequency and relative frequency. We'll also be computing sample statistics, and some specific ones are listed here, and in number 4, a couple of others are listed. Now, the first thing we need to do is open the data, and there are 2 ways to do that. From your MyStatLab area, or MyLab Statistics, what you'll need to do is click on StatCrunch, and there are 2 ways to go. You can open the data from the StatCrunch area, or you can open the data from the textbook. It's quicker to open from StatCrunch, but if you happen to also need to know what the question, it's quicker to open the data from here. But if you happen to also need to complete the problem in the textbook, then you'll probably want to go through chapter contents and just open the data from the textbook so that you have the problem in front of you as well. Now, for this lab, all we need is the data. So what we'll do is open data sets from the textbook, and we'll go to chapter 3, and we'll open 3.1, number 27. For your problem, you'll open data from 3.1, number 28, and so yours will look a little different from mine. Now the first thing we'll do is we'll talk about binning the data. So we'll go to Data, Bin. Now we'll bin the first column, Hours Working. Now I have given you some fixed bin widths for your data. For my data, I'm going to start at 0 with a bin width of 6. And I'm not going to change anything else. I'll click Compute. Now I have the bins. In order to create a frequency and relative frequency distribution, I'll need to go to Stat, Tables, Frequency, and I will select the bin column, and already frequency and relative frequency are selected. Those are the default, and that's all we are going to do, so I won't change any of that, and we'll say compute. Now this particular result here I want to save. This is my frequency and relative frequency histogram, and that result will demonstrate that you've completed that skill. You also will want to save your data set in order to show that you binned properly. So what we'll do to save the data set, we'll go to Data and Save, just as I demonstrated in the previous video. We'll also need to save this result, so we'll go to Options and Save to name and save that result. So we'll have both of those. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to create a histogram and relative frequency histogram. We'll go to Graph, Histogram. We'll select the column, and we aren't going to use the bin column for this one. We'll use the original data. Notice for type we have to select frequency or relative frequency. We can't do both at once. So we'll start with frequency, and again we'll select the same bins. Start at 0 with a bin width of 6. And you can include the mean and the median markers if you wish. Sometimes that helps you to determine the shape or the skewness of the distribution. Other than that, we won't change anything at this time. We'll say compute. Now the nice thing about this system is that you can in fact just say Options, Save. It will save the result as is. And then after you've saved this result, you can go to Options, Edit, and switch frequency to relative frequency, compute again, and then go back and save. Your original result as saved will stay as it was when you saved it. Now this second result you can save, and you're essentially just saving a new copy of this result as a relative frequency histogram. So You don't have to recreate the whole histogram. Now the other thing we need to do is compute sample statistics. Now if we go to Stat, Summary Stats, and we go to Columns, we'll need to select the column of raw data that we started with, and we are going to compute basic sample statistics. Now the default sample statistics will include everything that you need for this particular problem in number 3. So we'll just compute that. If you have a few extra things, that's okay, as long as it includes everything you need. So we have those, and again, you'll need to save your result. And now what we need to do after we save this is we'll go back in order to complete problem number 4. We'll edit this, and instead of selecting those, what we need to do is treat the data as a population and select unadjusted variance and unadjusted standard deviation. In order to select more than one item in the list, I'll need to use Control and click. You can also click and drag to select. You can also do a click and then a shift click in order to select a sequence of values from the list. And then we'll compute, and there I have my population variance and standard deviation. So that should be about all you need as far as specific skills for this particular lab. If you have any questions, please contact me. Of course, your data will look slightly different than mine because it will be a different data set, but the skills should carry over. Now remember, when you put your lab together, open StatCrunch, we'll go to My StatCrunch, create a new report, and don't forget that in addition to results and data, you will in fact need to type your answers to the questions here. You also need to remember to share your lab with everyone. Now, when you submit the URL, as long as you shared it, I should be able to view the lab exactly as you view it when you create it. And that should do it for Lab 1.